Welcome to the Sounds Like This podcast. I'm your host, Julie Murray, and today I'm joined by Gavin McCormack from UpSchool. Gavin's an amazing educator, and I can't wait to share his stories with you today. Let's go. Thank you so much for joining me today, Gavin McCormack.
Hi, thanks for having me. Really nice to be here.
Thank you for coming. So I'm really excited to have you on the Sounds Like This podcast because I understand that you've got some opinions on education and some philosophies around how you think education should be and how we can best support children and create learning environments. So I'm hoping that we can dig into that a bit together today.
100%. That's my bread and butter. Happy to share anything with you and your listeners, and hopefully they like it.
Fantastic. So can you tell me a little bit about your role and what you do?
So I'll give you the short version. So I'm born in England, Northern England, in, let's say, a deprived part of town. I was brought into the family just by my mum. My dad had already left, so just me and my mum, which was sad, but also amazing. My mum was an amazing mother and still is, still alive. But she instilled in me this value of always doing the right thing for the right reasons. And it came to a point where I had to choose to go to university. I'd worked hard at school. I knew I had to kind of break the family mold of getting to university. It was time to apply, and my mum said, "Why don't you be a teacher? Children somehow just gravitate towards you. You love learning, and you can continue to learn for your whole life, and you'll never work for the man. You'll always be doing something good for the world." And she was right. She was right in that advice. And off I went into the world to become a teacher. And I've been doing it 25 years now. And to just kind of summarize 25 years in 60 seconds, I worked in England for a few years. I went traveling very quickly around the world and used teaching as my kind of catalyst to move and to teach and to go from country to country. Ended up in Australia, where it's hard to leave once you arrive here. It's so amazing here. Like, I'm so fortunate to live in this wonderful country. And I worked in a Muslim school over in Lakemba in the western suburbs of Sydney with refugees from Libya and Syria and Afghanistan who come from very difficult situations. And at that point, I realized that there was no way I was going to get them to learn fractions, or writing a persuasive letter without connecting with them first, because they'd been through such hardship. And so I pivoted and changed my whole philosophy of what education should be. And it was all, rather than teaching them so they knew things, I was teaching them so they could thrive. And before I could do that, I had to connect with them and realize that we were all the same. We'd all had trauma. We all had things. We all had problems. We all had worries. And it was about exposing my true self to the children and becoming human, saying it's okay to be human. And I did that for 10 years, and it was actually the greatest 10 years of my life so far. And then I realized I was actually becoming a Montessori teacher without knowing.
Yeah.
And I retrained as a Montessori teacher. So I became a Montessori teacher at preschool and primary school, and I ran my own class over in Sydney and Balmain, and I became a Montessori school principal. And I did that for 5 years. I had my own school, a primary school and a preschool, and that was wonderful as well, absolutely amazing. But then COVID struck, and we had to shift online, which was fine, no problem whatsoever. I love technology, so that was wonderful. But I had this moment, this epiphany, and I had this moment of realization which would change my entire life during COVID. And it was a time when I was planning a lesson on photosynthesis for my 50 children in one of my stage 3 classes. And I was about to send the link to the lesson to my 50 families to say, "Hi, tomorrow morning we're learning about photosynthesis," and blah, blah, blah. And, by that time, I had about, let's say, 100,000 followers online on various platforms. I've been writing books for a long time and building schools in Nepal and whatnot. And I've been reading that there were so many kids who could not get to school because school was closed. I don't know if you remember, India was closed for 2 years.
Yeah.
So I rang my board chair and I said, "Look, I want to put the link to the lesson just online and let anybody come. We have a capacity for 20,000 kids in Microsoft Teams." So he said, go for it. As long as it's all safe, child protection wise. I said, yeah, it's only one-way traffic. It's just me broadcasting. There's no the other way around. And I sent it out. And when I logged in the morning, there were 14,640 children in the lesson.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I left my job. I rung the board chair, so I'm leaving. And he said, what do you mean you're leaving? You're Montessori ambassador for the country. It is a Montessori school. You're the principal. I said, I've just realized that actually I can teach 20,000 children every hour on the hour with one link for free. I don't need all of this. So I gave him 6 months notice. I left. And in that 6 months, myself and my good friend Richard Mills, we made a plan to open UpSchool. And UpSchool was basically designed to be an online platform where children can come to school for free all around the world. And 2 years later, we've got hundreds of thousands of children in 185 countries. We've been to Antarctica, we've been to the North Pole, Costa Rica. We've been everywhere to record lessons on the things that children find it very hard to see. And it's out of control now how many thousands and thousands of children are coming along. And it's all about using your resources wisely, doing the right thing for the right reasons, and using the internet for a force of good rather than a force of bad, as many people do use it for. So, and now we're here, and that's in a nutshell. When you ask me what is your role, which is so cool. I'm really happy with where we're at this moment in time.
It's amazing. That's incredible. What was your response when you saw that there were, more than 14,000 people coming along to class for photosynthesis for the day? It must have been a class.
Well, I knew it was going to be, from the response when I put it on LinkedIn, I knew there was going to be a lot of people there. I had no idea it was going to be that many. But during that time, I'd also been coming home every day and reading a story online on my Facebook page, just for children who parents were overwhelmed. They were working in the house all day and kids were in the house. And I thought, this will give them a 30-minute break. Mm-hmm. So I started reading a book online every day. And after, I think, about 70 days of doing it, and the first day was only one person, that was my niece. 70 days later, there were 20,000 people coming to that story reading, and it was on the ABC, and they had me on the ABC, like, teacher finds fame on blah, blah, blah. It wasn't really fame, but it wasn't about that. But I knew that there was this thing brewing, and people needed to pivot. And then, subsequently what's happened is so many parents have realized that they want to teach their kids at home. Homeschooling is booming. And so what happens is they're saying, well, this platform over here writes our programs, records all the lessons, makes sure all the task cards, worksheets, it's all differentiated, it's all real world, it's all very Montessori inspired. And so they're coming in their droves, and it's fantastic, really enjoying it.
It's really beautiful. So what has the feedback been from families in terms of the connection and the experience that they're actually having within their own homes or their own communities? What have you heard from families? Because you touched on just before about when you're working in the school in the Outer West, about the challenges that they had with trauma and connecting and trust. And I'm a big believer that teaching first and foremost needs to be relationship based. You need to rest in love, and that this is a safe space for you to be, and there's a vulnerability for being able to stick your hand up, or to being able to find out more information, or even just to be in this space. That can be an incredibly uncomfortable thing for some people. And so I'm just wondering, through UpSchool, what have you found from the family saying about the community that you're creating, or perhaps the relationships that they're seeing in their own homes?
Yeah, well, look, just to be clear, there are, a significant number of people coming from homeschool families to the platform, but the majority are actually teachers from schools. And so what's happening is they're delivering it in their class, because, with my experience in education first and foremost, but then my Montessori qualifications, Montessori is all about giving service, global outreach, doing the work that you're about to do to make the world a better place. And it's all about, you don't do the work to show your teacher, to say, hey, by the way, is this good? Will you tick it? Can I have a point or a star on my chart? That is not a thing. Actually, it's proven it's detrimental. It doesn't work anyway, but so many people are still doing it, unfortunately. So the platform and the content that's on there is designed so that children will learn something. They will learn something academic. Yes, academics are important. But the success criteria is you must then use the thing that you have made, whether it's a poster or a task card or an information report or a letter. You must then use it and send it out into the world, whether you send your little poster off to the post office and it says, hey, if you're walking past the post office, I've noticed there's litter on the floor, please pick it up. Or maybe it's, something for your grandma to make her smile. Or maybe it's a letter to a politician to raise $25,000 so you can plant a forest. And so, yes, for those homeschooling parents, there is definitely an understanding that the lack of connection with other students is going to be a thing, and it always will be. There's no question about that. But in terms of the content which is on the platform is designed in a way where you're always going to use it to then reach out. So these families that are doing it in their homeschools, and I can't speak for all of them, I have a strong suspicion, and the ones that I've got back, the feedback I've got from families is, photographs of children then taking the stuff out of the home and going out into the community and doing what we call good work or giving service. There's one amazing story. I do a lot of talks at conferences, and I have to pick and choose my stories carefully because you're talking to a massive audience. There is absolutely amazing story where a group of children in Dwarka, and Dwarka is a district of Delhi. It's basically an industrial wasteland, just dust. There was a motorway going to be built. It was cancelled. And so just imagine this school sitting there in the middle of a dusty wasteland. The children came onto the UpSchool platform, and one of the courses there allows them to choose an SDG from the United Nations. And so it's all agency and choice. We don't tell them what to do. We just give them some options. They chose SDG 30.
An invitation.
Yeah, here are some things you might like to do, but if you don't like to do these, then there's 1,000 other things, and here's what you can think about. So imagine this: 6,000 children choose an SDG 13, climate change. They then decide as a community that what they want to do is plant a forest right outside their school, but they don't have money to do that. So 9 girls in year 12 decide that they're going to go to all of the classes and encourage the children and teach them how to write a persuasive letter. So they go to 5,991 other children, and they pitch this idea to them. If you help us, if you write a letter, we're going to teach you how to do it. We're going to send it to the local minister, and hopefully he'll give us the land right outside the school and gift it to us. So the local minister received 6,000 handwritten letters through his door one day saying, please, we need the land outside of school, which is worth a lot of money. He gifts them half an acre because the letters are so good. They've got little pictures of blah, blah, blah. So then they've got the land, but they don't have any money to plant the trees.
Well, so they need soil, they need trees, they need
Well, they realize the power that they have with a piece of paper and a pen. So the girls okay, stage 2. We're going to go around the classes again, and we're going to find a man in the local community who's very rich. And there was a local man who was a billionaire, he was a diamond dealer, and he received 6,000 letters 2 weeks later. Please give us $20,000. We need to buy 20,000 saplings to plant a tree. And their objective, and this is their own self-directed objective, not told by us, their self-directed objective was to attract their first bird. They hadn't seen a bird, So they write this letter to him, and they talk about what the minister has done, and they've all pictures of birds on these letters. He gives them $40,000, doubles the money. So
brilliant.
They get the saplings, and they call me. The principal calls me, Gavin, you don't know me, but I blah, 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 blah. This is what we did, the course, I said, oh my God, I feel like crying. He said, you've got to come for our inauguration. You've got to be here. I said, well, I happen to be going to see my mum. Let me fly into Delhi and I'll come. I go along to this school. It's absolutely unbelievable. All the kids are waiting for me. They all know me because the lessons I do, the recording of the videos, like this week, they're all like, hello, Gavin, as if we're friends. I've never met any of them.
Yeah.
And they let me plant the first sapling So I plant it, and I interview this girl. She's 13, and just to finish the story, I said, how will you know this is a success? And she said, when the first bird comes, then we've succeeded. And she said, look up there. And she pointed into one of the school windows, and there was a little boy with a pair of binoculars. And she said, we've already started our bird watching club.
I love it. They'll be writing letters to get more binoculars. I love it so much.
But you know what? that's the essence of what my philosophy is of education. That's what we do at UpSchool. It's like, that's, you can hear the curriculum. It's in there. It's just in there, right? Writing letters, persuasive language, community, leadership, like it's all there. We just need to give teachers the time to actually breathe and think and be creative. They can come up with these ideas. It's nothing unique. There's 100 million teachers in the world. I'm just one. But we don't give them the time to think about these things. We say, here's a curriculum, say the words to those kids, test them, give them the results. We want to look good on the rankings because the Daily Mail are going to publish them in the newspaper, and we need to attract some, enrollments. But actually, if we just trust our teachers to do the job that they were trained to do and the profession that they're experts in, then we'd see this. And so that's really my driving force, is that, because I've been a teacher where that freedom's been taken away from me before, and it's awful. And the whole idea with UpSchool is to empower teachers to have that freedom back. So it's so cool.
Much. It's really, really beautiful. And through that, you've empowered the teachers to be able to find and think creatively around how to deliver these things that are part of the curriculum, and actually, opening up those possibilities for them. But you've actually given the children great autonomy and great skills for now, but for their future lives. And surely the point of education shouldn't be box ticking, we need to cover X, Y, Z. Surely it should be because we want these people to thrive, and we want the future to thrive, and we want them to be able to feel brilliant about themselves, and have these skills and have these connections, and be able to head out into the world and make it better. So
I love the way you say surely, right?
Surely. Yes.
But unfortunately, the problem is, and I'm sad to say this, that it's just not happening. The change is slow. You've got to chip away at this thing. But I've been advocating for this for maybe 10 years in Australia now. I've been talking at conference after conference after conference, and you slowly work this. But I guess I was listening to a podcast with a Finnish educator the other day. He said the success of any educational institution is not what happens tomorrow. It's the citizens that are walking on the street in 20 years' time. So because our political system is 3-4 years in most countries, we're not thinking about 20 years. We're thinking about now. And hey, look at our scores. Look how great we are on the PISA rankings today. Actually, what we should be saying is, let's look at the citizens walking on the street. How empathetic are they? How caring, how loving, how peaceful, how resilient, determined, all those things. But because we don't look to the future so much, we look short term, our children suffer. And actually, in the end, our world, that's the problem. That's the big picture. Our world is, we can see it right now before our eyes. And, my determination in this is that I'm not going to give up. So, I want to ultimately go back to my mum and make her proud. I want her to walk around a supermarket telling her friends, like, hey, by the way, did you hear about my son? This school in India planted a forest because of the course that he wrote. And so, I'm happy to continue with this, mission, because it's such a big one, I feel.
It's really wonderful. My mentor, Dr. John Feyerabend from the US, he talks about a 30-year plan, and that's the bare minimum of what we should be thinking about in education. So I work with very, very young children and through primary school, but what is it that I'm doing now and sowing the seeds for, and, supporting their neural development, so that 30 years from now, they're singing lullabies to their children, so that we're cultivating intergenerational change. And I think that that's really important. I think the seeds that you're sowing now and the saplings that you're planting now, they will shade the future. And that's a really beautiful thing. So what a legacy those schoolgirls have created.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know how long you've been a teacher, but I've been a teacher 25 years, right? And that's quite young compared to some people out there. But I already am starting to see my old students coming back. And many teachers write this online. I've seen this so many times. You bump into your students and they don't remember, those facts you taught them or the test you gave them. They actually remember the time when you showed real care for them, when you took time to listen to them, or, you were walking on the playground and you knelt down because one child looked lonely and you said, hey, why don't we have lunch together? Those tiny things. We forget that is the most important part in education. And you want to win your children. You want to win them over. You want to get them to work hard. You want to get them to achieve their best. They've really got to be connected to you in a very special way. And that really means being human. You've got to show, that you make mistakes, that sometimes you are tired, and and they can also feel that sometimes, because if we're not modeling this behavior to our students because we're so scared of looking weak or vulnerable, or then what are they going to be? There's a very famous saying, what you are, they will become. And so we should try and be as human as possible. And I think that's where we're missing the point.
I think that's really beautiful. I've been a teacher for 14 years, and I've had some really beautiful feedback from some students. And like, I would love it if everyone was a music maker throughout their entire lives, but I understand not everyone's going to have be a musician as their career, and that's not what I'm about. It's about how do we cultivate and think about supporting the person holistically. But anyway, I met actually up with a past student of mine last week, and she said to me, I still dabble on the piano, and I said, oh, that's really lovely. And she said, but what you gave me was just confidence and belief in myself, and that it almost brought me to tears. Because one of the main reasons that I have families approaching me for what it is that I do is because their child is shy or doesn't feel connected or has a hard time regulating their emotions, or, there's other things that are going on, or they move too much for stereotypical school or whatever it is. And I love teaching whoever the child is in front of me and just being like, you know what, your human experience is valid and we're here for that. And yeah, I love sparkly eyes, when you build people up and they sparkle and then they carry that forward. I think it's such a gift to be able to do.
Yeah, look, I'm writing a book at the moment with Mark Williams. Dr. Mark Williams is a neuroscientist from MIT. He's absolutely amazing. You should definitely have him on this show. He will blow you away.
Link me up.
Yeah, we'll definitely hook you up with him. He's an amazing guy. And, we sit and we talk a lot. We have a lot of conversations around neuroscience and also school. And what happens is we find this beautiful synergy between what just happens to work in school for me is actually entwined with neuroscience without me knowing. So, for example, in Montessori education, it is mandatory that the teacher stands at the door. When the children arrive, you shake their hand, say good morning. And I've done that for 10 years. I had no idea why I was doing it, but I told him that we do that in Montessori. He said, let me tell you what happens.
Making a connection.
Well, when when your skin touches another person's skin, your brain knows it's not your skin. He says, this isn't somebody else's skin. And you're really close to them. You must be in very close proximity because you're touching, which means you must trust them to be that close. Therefore, lower your blood pressure, lower your anxiety levels, you're at ease, you're safe. So imagine
just from a handshake as they come in.
Every teacher in the world just knew that and stood on the door and said, good morning, Jonathan, how are you? Shake the hand, in you pop, boom. You've just relieved their anxiety of every student in your class by something like 30%. I can't remember the exact number. But like all these small, tiny tidbits of information that you can find around the world and through experience, they're just magical. But when teachers are smashed with results and curriculum and the bells ringing and getting class, and we can't do these wonderful things. We can't have circle time and time to chat and debrief and reflect. All these things that we know are so good for our students, especially their learning. We don't have time to do them because we've got this regimented time of literacy, mathematics, science, history. Now out for play, in, out. It's just maybe too much, and we're missing the point.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, it has been so delightful to have you on. Our time is up for today. Thank you very much. Maybe I'll have you back again. Would you come back again for another chat?
It's been fun. The time has gone very quickly indeed.
Very, very quickly. Thank you so much for joining me today, Gavin McCormack.
My pleasure. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you. If you have found our podcast on Spotify or Apple or wherever you found it out in the wild, please rate us and leave a comment so that lots of other lovely humans can find us far and wide. It really does help. Thank you so much. And if you found us on YouTube, please comment and share us so that everyone can find us there.